The night settles slowly, as if even time itself has softened its pace. The air is calm, the silence gentle, and the world seems to dim its colors, inviting the listener to step inward. It is here, in this quiet, that the hollow ache begins to make itself known, a feeling of something missing, though no clear name can be given to it. It is not pain in the body, nor noise in the mind, but rather an absence, an emptiness that drifts quietly through the heart like mist over a darkened field. The listener lies back, feeling the weight of this sensation. Not sharp, not overwhelming, but steady, a silent reminder of an inner question that lingers even when the day is done. Why, after all the busyness, the conversations, the efforts, and even the small joys, does the heart still feel hollow when the lights go out? Why, when the world is quiet, does the silence echo with a sense of incompleteness? Before we step deeper, a gentle invitation is offered. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. This request is not rushed, not pressured. It is simply a soft acknowledgement, a way of keeping connection alive. And if you feel inspired, share in the comments where you're listening from and the time of your night. It helps us all remember that though we rest in our own spaces, we are part of something larger, a community breathing under the same wide sky. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's drift into tonight's meditation together. The practice begins gently, with breath. Inhale through the nose, feeling the cool air slide into the chest, into the belly, filling the hollow spaces. Exhale slowly, letting the breath carry away the restless searching, the weight of needing answers immediately. Each cycle becomes softer, smoother, as though the body itself is learning to cradle the emptiness rather than fear it. A Buddhist teaching arises here. Suffering often blooms from craving, from wanting life to be different than it is. The feeling of emptiness is not failure, not flaw, but a gentle whisper of craving's presence. The heart longs for more meaning, more connection, more assurance. Yet like hands trying to grasp water, it slips through. The listener reflects. Perhaps emptiness itself is not the enemy, but the teacher. Perhaps it is not a void to be filled, but an opening to be understood. Some say the hollow silence is a warning, a reminder of lack. Others believe it is the very doorway to wisdom, the threshold where awareness begins. Tonight, the listener is invited not to fight it, but to walk through it gently. The body begins to relax further. Shoulders soften, the chest loosens, and the jaw releases its grip. The hollow ache is no longer sharp. It is simply there, like an empty bowl resting on a table, waiting, open, patient. The breath continues to move through it, each inhale filling, each exhale releasing, until even emptiness feels like part of the rhythm. The narrator whispers, "Remember this hollow silence. It is not against you." Just breathe. It's safe to rest here, drifting deeper now. And in that whisper, the listener realizes that emptiness itself can be held tenderly, that perhaps the hollow is not a flaw to fix, but a space where peace may one day enter. The night deepens, and the breath becomes more noticeable, not just the act of survival, but a quiet companion, always here, always steady. The listener is invited to rest attention gently upon this breath, like placing a feather on still water. Inhale, coolness enters, filling the hollow spaces within. Exhale, warmth drifts outward, carrying away the weight of unspoken longing. The breath is simple, but within its simplicity lies a profound truth. It is enough. The feeling of emptiness often grows louder in silence. When the distractions fade, when the lights are dim, and when the world no longer demands attention, the hollow space inside comes forward. It whispers, something is missing. The listener has perhaps tried to fill it with achievements, possessions, relationships, or endless activity. Yet when all is quiet, the feeling remains, a gentle, unsettling void. The practice tonight is not to resist this emptiness, but to soften into it through breath. Imagine the hollow space as a darkened room. With each inhale, the listener lights a small lantern within, glowing softly. With each exhale, the room grows warmer, more spacious, less intimidating. The emptiness does not vanish. Instead, it becomes illuminated, understood, even welcomed. A teaching arises here. In Buddhism, the root of suffering is not the presence of emptiness, but the craving for it to be otherwise. The listener reflects. Perhaps the hollow feeling is not evidence of brokenness, but a reminder of the craving mind. By noticing it without judgment, one begins to transform the relationship with it. The breath is the bridge, steady, faithful, unchanging, reminding the listener that even in emptiness, there is life moving, energy flowing, presence unfolding. The imagery deepens. The listener imagines sitting by a mountain stream at night. The water flows endlessly, cool and clear, though the rocks beneath may seem empty and bare. Yet the stream nourishes all it touches, carrying life forward in ways unseen. So too does the breath move through the body, invisible yet sustaining. The hollow space inside may feel barren, but the breath reveals it is still alive, still capable of being filled with quiet presence. A reflection emerges softly. Some people view emptiness as a void that must be filled at all costs. Others discover that emptiness is the space that allows fullness to arrive. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. Just as a cup must be empty to be filled, the hollow within may simply be waiting, not as punishment, but as preparation. The body responds to this practice. The chest feels lighter, the shoulders ease, the belly softens. The breath flows more naturally now, like the steady current of the stream. The hollow no longer feels hostile, but more like an open vessel, not broken, but ready. The narrator whispers, "Remember the breath beneath the void," It is your anchor. Just breathe, Soth. It's safe to rest, drifting deeper now. The silence stretches wide, but within it, the breath continues, steady, faithful, carrying the listener deeper into calm. The emptiness remains, but now it feels less like absence and more like spaciousness, waiting with patience and peace. The breath steadies, and now the listener feels the hollow space inside pulsing with a quiet ache. It is not loud, not painful like a wound, but persistent, like hunger that never truly fades. This is the hungry heart, always reaching, always longing, always whispering more. In Buddhism, this hunger is called tanha, the thirst of craving. It is the restless current that pushes one to seek fulfillment in food, in praise, in possessions, in love, in endless doing. For a moment, the craving is satisfied, like a sip of water cooling a dry throat. But soon the thirst returns, deeper than before. The heart whispers, not enough, not yet, not whole. The practice now is not to condemn this hunger, but to sit with it, gently, patiently, with compassion. The listener is invited to imagine their heart as a small bowl, empty and waiting. Each inhale fills the bowl with breath, light and nourishing. Each exhale softens the craving, as though whispering to the heart, you are safe, you are seen, you are held. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking through a vast desert at night, the stars glittering above, the sand cool beneath their feet. They carry thirst within them, but instead of searching desperately, they pause. They feel the cool air. They hear the silence. They notice the beauty even within the barren landscape. The desert no longer feels like punishment, but like teacher. Hunger is here, yes, but it points to something deeper, the longing not for objects, but for connection, meaning, wholeness. A reflection arises. Some say craving is proof of weakness, a flaw to be eradicated. Others believe craving is simply the heart's way of reminding us of its vast capacity to love, to belong, to awaken. Tonight, the listener leans into this second truth. They learn that the hungry heart is not a failure, but an opening. The body responds with tenderness. The chest feels soft, the breath slow, the belly warm. The hollow ache no longer feels jagged. Instead, it is like an empty bowl, cradled carefully in gentle hands. The listener realizes that hunger need not be shamed or filled recklessly. It can be acknowledged, honored, soothed with presence. The narrator whispers, remember the hungry heart. It only asks to be seen. Just breathe. It's safe to feel, drifting deeper now. The desert fades into silence. The stars above shimmer, vast and endless, reminding the listener that emptiness itself is not failure, but spaciousness, an opening large enough to hold the whole sky. The hungry heart softens, not silenced, but understood. And in understanding, peace begins to seep in like cool dew across the sand. The breath moves steadily, like a soft tide, and now the listener is invited to imagine standing before a mirror. At first, the reflection looks familiar. The face, the posture, the small details of appearance. But as they gaze longer, the image begins to blur, shifting like mist. The features seem to fade, and the mirror begins to reveal not a solid self, but emptiness, a reflection without permanence, a self without edges. This is the mirror without reflection, a gentle metaphor for the struggle of identity. Often, the hollow ache inside grows stronger when the self clings to images. I am this role. I must appear this way. I must be seen as this or that. Yet when those roles slip away, the mirror feels empty, and the heart wonders, who am I, truly? The listener is guided to soften into this question, not with fear, but with curiosity. Each inhale draws the reflection clearer. Each exhale lets it blur, reminding the heart that identity is not fixed, but fluid. Like clouds across a sky, the self shifts, changes, dissolves, reforms. The mirror is not empty because something is missing. It is empty because it is free to reflect anything at all. A Buddhist teaching arises here. The illusion of self is one of the deepest causes of suffering. We cling to identities as though they are permanent, yet they slip like water through the hands. To see the mirror clearly is to recognize that we are not the reflection, but the awareness gazing at it. The imagery deepens. The listener imagines touching the surface of the mirror. Instead of glass, they feel cool water. Their hand ripples the image, breaking it into fragments of light. But the water is still water. Beneath the shifting images, the essence remains. So too does awareness remain steady, even as roles and identities dissolve. A reflection surfaces. Some believe that without identity, there is nothing. Others discover that without fixed identity, there is freedom. Tonight, the listener leans into this second truth. They see that the emptiness in the mirror is not void, but possibility. It is the openness to become, to change, to flow with life without being chained to an image. The body responds gently. The shoulders drop. The jaw relaxes. The chest loosens. The listener feels lighter, less burdened by the need to hold tightly to definitions. They begin to sense the relief in letting go, in allowing the mirror to reflect freely without needing it to stay still. The narrator whispers, "Remember this mirror without reflection. You are not what appears. Just breathe. It's safe to release, drifting deeper now." The mirror fades into soft light, leaving only spacious awareness. The listener rests within it, not as a fixed figure, but as presence itself. Fluid, open, infinite. The hollow ache within the heart feels less like loss and more like freedom. The breath flows quietly, and the listener is now guided into the subtle ache of comparison. It is a shadow that follows softly, unnoticed during busy hours, but growing sharper in silence. The heart whispers, "They are happier. They are more successful. They are more complete than I am." Each thought is like a stone dropped into the hollow, making it feel deeper, darker, more endless. The listener imagines standing in a hall of mirrors, each reflection showing not only themselves, but fragments of others. Some mirrors shine brighter, others dimmer, but all distort. The act of comparison is like walking endlessly from mirror to mirror, never feeling at home in one's own reflection. The result is exhaustion, and the hollowness grows. The practice now is to soften the grip of comparison through mindfulness. The breath is the anchor. Inhale, a quiet acknowledgement of the shadow. Exhale, a release, a whisper of forgiveness for having measured against another's path. Each cycle becomes gentler, reminding the listener that they do not need to compete with the stars, only shine with their own light. A teaching arises. In Buddhism, envy and comparison are forms of restlessness, a mind always looking outward, never satisfied inwardly. The listener is reminded that no two paths can ever be the same. A tree does not compare itself to a river. The moon does not try to shine like the sun. Each has its place, its beauty, its rhythm. The imagery deepens. The listener imagines walking out of the hall of mirrors into a quiet meadow. Above, the sky stretches wide. Stars twinkle, each one unique, none stealing light from another. The listener lies in the grass, breathing slowly, realizing that comparison is like staring at only one star and missing the vast constellation. In the meadow, there is no competition, only belonging. A reflection arises. Some say self-worth comes from being better, brighter, ahead. Others discover that self-worth is found in simply being, in resting without measure. Tonight, the listener leans into this second truth. They feel the relief of letting the shadows dissolve, like mist lifting from the morning field. The body responds. Shoulders feel lighter, as though stones have been set down. The chest expands with ease. The heart softens. Muscles loosen. And the breath flows with quiet freedom. The hollow ache inside no longer echoes with judgment. It begins to feel like open space where kindness can dwell. The narrator whispers, "Remember the shadow of comparison. It does not belong to you. Just breathe. It's safe to let it go, drifting deeper now." The meadow grows quiet. The stars shimmer softly. The listener rests here, no longer measuring themselves against others, but simply breathing, simply being. The hollow space inside feels gentler, like a spacious sky that needs no reflection, no comparison, only presence. The breath steadies like a gentle current, and the listener begins to notice how often the mind whispers, "Just a little more success, more possessions, more recognition, more assurance." And yet, when the more arrives, the hollowness still lingers. It is like pouring water into a cup with no bottom. no matter how much is added, the feeling of enough never comes. This is the illusion of more. It promises fulfillment but leaves only a deeper ache. The listener imagines standing in a vast marketplace, stalls overflowing with treasures, voices calling from every corner. Shiny objects catch the eye, promises echo in the air, but each item held soon fades in its charm, leaving the same key emptiness beneath. The marketplace never closes, never rests, and the wandering heart grows weary. The practice now is to step out of the marketplace. Inhale, the breath enters, cool and grounding. Exhale, the clamor of more fades into silence. Each cycle reminds the listener that sufficiency already lives within, needing no purchase, no proof. A teaching arises. The Buddha spoke of craving as fire, always consuming, never satisfied. To chase endlessly is to feed the fire. To pause, to breathe, to release is to let the fire cool. Fulfillment is not found in adding endlessly, but in discovering what was already whole. The imagery deepens. The listener imagines leaving the marketplace, walking into a quiet field. The sky above is wide, empty of noise, yet full of calm. In the silence, they feel lighter. The hunger for more softens, replaced by the simple sweetness of air, of stillness, of being alive in this moment. The field is bare compared to the crowded stalls, but in its openness, it holds a deeper fullness. A reflection arises. Some say happiness is always one step ahead, waiting in the next achievement. Others know happiness is here, in the breath, in the present, when one stops chasing shadows. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They realize that more is a horizon that retreats endlessly, but presence is the ground beneath their feet. The body responds to this shift. Shoulders loosen, the jaw relaxes, the chest opens. The breath feels rich, satisfying, as though each inhale itself is enough. Each exhale, a release of restless grasping. The hollow space no longer begs to be filled with objects. It begins to soften into peace, content in its own openness. The narrator whispers, "Remember the illusion of more. You are enough already. Just breathe. It's safe to rest." Drifting deeper now. The field stretches quietly. The horizon glows with fading light. The listener lies within it, no longer chasing, no longer carrying the weight of endless desire. The emptiness inside feels less like lack and more like spacious freedom, a fullness that needs no addition. The night air grows cooler, and the listener is guided to notice the subtle ache of loneliness. It is not always loud. Sometimes it drifts in quietly, like a shadow crossing the heart. Even in the presence of others, the hollow feeling can remain, whispering, "You are apart, unseen, untouched." It lingers not because of absence outside, but because of disconnection within. The breath offers comfort here. Inhale, welcoming warmth into the chest. Exhale, releasing the ache, as though softening the edges of isolation. Each cycle of breath becomes a gentle companion, reminding the listener they are never truly alone. For awareness itself is always present, steady, and kind. The imagery expands. The listener imagines sitting by a small fire at the edge of a forest. The flames flicker gently, casting light on their face, warming their hands. Though no one else is near, the fire offers companionship, steady and alive. The crackle of the flames whispers that connection need not always be with others. Sometimes it is with the simple presence of life itself. A Buddhist teaching arises. Loneliness often blooms from the illusion of separation. Yet in truth, all beings are connected by breath, by earth, by the unseen threads of interbeing. The listener reflects that even now, as they breathe, the trees are giving their breath in return. Each inhale is a meeting, each exhale an offering. The air itself is proof of connection. The reflection deepens. Some say loneliness is a curse, an emptiness to be feared. Others know it can be a doorway, inviting us to rediscover connection in subtler, deeper ways. Tonight, the listener leans into this second truth. Loneliness is not the enemy. It is a reminder to look not only outward, but inward, where presence is waiting. The body responds softly. The chest feels less tight. The shoulders ease. The belly relaxes. The fire within the imagination warms the hollow space, not filling it, but softening it. The ache of isolation becomes quieter, replaced by a sense of belonging to something greater. The narrator whispers, "Remember these echoes of loneliness. They are not proof of separation. Just breathe. It's safe to feel, drifting deeper now." The forest deepens into stillness. The fire burns steadily, small yet constant, its glow reaching outward. The listener rests in its warmth, realizing that even in solitude, they are not apart. The earth is beneath, the sky is above. The breath connects all things. The hollow no longer feels like an empty echo, but a quiet space where connection gently enters. And so, in the presence of loneliness, the listener discovers companionship, not always in others, but in breath, in awareness, in the living world that holds them. The breath deepens, and the listener is reminded of something so simple it is often forgotten: the breath itself. When emptiness feels vast, when silence grows heavy, the mind searches for complicated answers. Yet the body whispers gently, "Just breathe." Inhale. The coolness flows in, filling the chest and belly. Exhale. The warmth drifts outward, carrying tension away. This is the forgotten breath, the anchor always present, the gentle bridge between emptiness and peace. It asks for nothing but attention, and in return it gives calm, grounding, and life. The imagery expands. The listener imagines a candle flame flickering softly in a dark room. Each inhale brightens the flame. Each exhale steadies it. Though the room around may feel hollow and silent, the candle continues to glow. The breath is this candle, steady, faithful, illuminating the darkness without effort. A teaching arises. In Buddhism, mindfulness of breathing is one of the most essential practices. It is simple, yet profound. By returning to the breath, the listener returns to the present moment, the only place where peace can be found. The breath does not erase emptiness, but it transforms the way emptiness is held. The reflection deepens. Some believe peace comes from solving every problem, from filling every void. Others know peace comes from resting in what is already here. Tonight, the listener leans into this second truth. The breath reminds them that even when the heart feels hollow, life continues to flow gently within. The body responds tenderly. Shoulders soften. The jaw loosens. The belly expands easily with each inhale. The chest feels warm, supported by the steady rhythm. The listener begins to sense that the hollow space inside is not hostile, but simply waiting for presence. The narrator whispers, "Remember the forgotten breath. It is always with you. Just breathe." It's safe to return, drifting deeper now. The silence around deepens, yet it no longer feels heavy. Each breath is like a soft wave against the shore, rising and falling, endless and soothing. The hollow is no longer frightening. It feels like a vessel, filled and emptied gently by the tide of breath. The listener rests in this rhythm, realizing they have always carried their anchor, their guide, their light. The emptiness may come and go, but the breath remains, steady, simple, eternal. And so, with the forgotten breath remembered, the listener drifts deeper, carried by the most faithful companion of all. The breath moves like a soft tide, and within it arises a tender awareness, the human longing to belong. Beneath the ache of emptiness often lies this craving for connection. The listener feels it quietly, like a hand reaching out in the dark, hoping to find another hand waiting. Inhale. The chest opens, receiving the possibility of closeness. Exhale. The heart softens, releasing the fear of being unseen. Each cycle becomes an invitation to welcome connection not only with others, but also with the self, with the breath, with the living world. The imagery expands. The listener imagines standing in a vast field under twilight skies. Fireflies drift through the air, glowing faintly, blinking in quiet harmony. At first they seem scattered, each light alone. But as the eyes adjust, patterns emerge, the glow of one firefly sparking another, the field shimmering with quiet unity. So too does connection move, subtle, often unseen, yet real, always present. A teaching arises. In Buddhist thought, beings are interdependent, like jewels in a great net, each reflecting the light of the others. To feel empty is often to forget this truth, to believe the self is isolated. But the breath itself proves otherwise. Each inhale is a gift of trees and earth, each exhale a gift returned. Connection is already happening, in every moment. A reflection surfaces. Some believe belonging requires constant seeking, striving to be accepted. Others realize belonging begins with soft acceptance of oneself. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. By resting gently in their own being, they discover they are already part of the great web of life. The body responds. The shoulders release downward, the chest expands with warmth, the heart feels less closed. A subtle glow spreads through the body, as though the firefly's light has entered within. Tiny sparks of connection illuminating the hollow space. The narrator whispers, "Remember this craving for connection. It already lives within you. Just breathe. It's safe to belong, drifting deeper now." The field glows brighter as the fireflies continue their quiet dance. The listener feels no longer like one dim point of light, but part of a constellation of glowing beings. The hollow inside softens, replaced by the warmth of recognition. I am not alone. I am part of the great circle of life, and so, in the quiet company of connection, the listener drifts deeper, embraced by the unseen threads that bind all hearts together. The breath deepens, and now the listener is invited to imagine desire itself as a flowing current. This is the river of desire, always moving, always pulling, never still. Sometimes it trickles softly, almost unnoticed. Other times, it surges like a flood, sweeping the heart with longing for things, people, moments, or states of being. Inhale. The listener feels the river's coolness, noticing its motion without judgment. Exhale. They step back from its current, resting on the riverbank, safe and calm. Each breath becomes a reminder that one does not need to be carried away by desire. One can simply observe. The imagery expands. The listener sees the river shimmering beneath moonlight. In its waters drift countless reflections, possessions, memories, people loved and lost, hopes for tomorrow. Each reflection glides by, beautiful yet fleeting. The listener is tempted to reach out, to grasp one, to hold it close. Yet as soon as the hand touches the water, the image dissolves. Nothing remains but ripples. A Buddhist teaching arises here. Desire itself is not wrong. It is part of being human. But suffering comes when we mistake its fleeting reflections for permanence. To drink endlessly from the river only deepens thirst. To sit quietly by its edge, to watch its flow without clinging, is to discover peace. A reflection softens within the listener. Some say fulfillment comes by chasing every desire, seizing every reflection. Others know fulfillment arrives by letting the river flow untouched. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They realize peace is not in stopping the river, but in no longer being swept away by it. The body responds gently. The chest feels lighter. The shoulders ease downward. The belly relaxes. The hollow ache inside no longer feels desperate, but calm, like an open space beside the river. The breath flows naturally, like water moving steadily toward the sea. The narrator whispers, "Remember this river of desire. You need not drown, just breathe." Then it's safe to watch, drifting deeper now. The river glides onward, endless, timeless. Its current no longer pulls at the listener. It simply moves, as rivers always do. The hollow within feels less like a wound and more like a riverbank, steady, grounded, spacious. And so, by resting beside the river of desire, the listener drifts deeper into stillness, carried not by craving, but by calm awareness. The breath moves with steady ease, and the listener is guided now into the image of rootless growth. The hollow ache inside is often like a tree that has grown tall, but without roots, reaching upward, bearing leaves, even flowering at times, yet always fragile, always at risk of toppling when the winds arrive. Inhale. The body imagines drawing strength downward into the earth. Exhale. The breath sinks deeper, as though sending roots into soil. With each cycle, the listener feels less weightless, less hollow, and more grounded, more so steady. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking through a forest where some trees grow tall and proud, their roots deep, intertwined with the earth. Beside them, a tree without roots has fallen, its trunk hollow, its branches brittle. The lesson is clear. Without grounding, even the strongest form cannot endure. The hollow feeling within is like this fallen tree, not a sign of weakness, but a reminder of what has been forgotten. A Buddhist teaching arises. To feel empty is often to lose touch with the present, to be pulled into craving for future or regret for past. Roots are found in mindfulness, in the steady presence of now. The listener is invited to return gently to the breath, to the body, to this moment, where life is already unfolding. A reflection arises. Some say strength is in reaching higher, growing endlessly upward. Others know strength is in sinking deeply, grounding before rising. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They learn that roots of awareness nourish the heart far more than branches of ambition. The body responds. The feet feel heavy, anchored. The hips release into the surface beneath. The chest opens. The breath slows. The hollow ache inside feels less like a void and more like soil waiting for roots to grow. The narrator whispers, "Remember this rootless growth. You are meant to ground. Just breathe. It's safe to sink, drifting deeper now." The forest deepens in silence. The rooted trees sway gently in the wind, but do not fall. The listener rests among them, no longer fragile, but steady, nourished by the quiet strength of connection to the earth. And so, with roots imagined deep within, the listener drifts further into calm, the hollow inside beginning to feel like fertile ground. The breath flows quietly, and the listener is invited to notice the subtle ways the hollow ache has often been hidden. Instead of sitting with emptiness, many people rush to cover it, layering it with tasks, distractions, and noise. This is the mask of busyness, the endless motion that keeps silence away, but never truly soothes the heart. Inhale, awareness draws inward, noticing the pace of life. Exhale, the body softens, as though setting down the burden of doing. With each cycle, the listener learns that it is safe to pause, safe to rest, safe to be still. The imagery expands. The listener imagines standing in a bustling marketplace at midday. Voices call out, wheels turn, footsteps echo. Everyone moves quickly, busy with errands and bargains. Yet at the center of the marketplace stands a small fountain, its water flowing quietly, unnoticed by many. The listener walks toward it, sits by its edge, and breathes. Amid the noise, stillness is always present. A Buddhist teaching arises. Chasing after activity is like running in circles, motion without direction. Busyness does not dissolve emptiness. It only delays the moment when silence returns. True peace is found not in doing more, but in learning how to rest in being. The reflection deepens. Some say worth is measured by how much one accomplishes, how much one fills their hours. Others know worth is not earned, but inherent, proven not by busyness, but by presence. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They allow themselves to rest, not because everything is done, but because rest itself is sacred. The body responds. The chest loosens. The shoulders fall. The jaw unclenches. The weight of constant doing begins to lift, replaced by the sweetness of pause. The hollow space inside softens, no longer crowded by endless motion, but gently held in stillness. The narrator whispers, "Remember this mask of busyness. You do not need it now. Just breathe. It's safe to be still. Drifting deeper now." The marketplace fades, its noise dissolving into silence. Only the sound of the fountain remains, soft and steady, like the breath itself. The listener rests beside it, discovering that stillness was never far away. It was only waiting beneath the surface. And so, with the mask of busyness set aside, the listener drifts deeper, finding peace not in doing, but in simply being. The breath flows gently, like a stream moving without rush, and the listener is guided now to the space between thoughts. At first, the mind seems full, crowded with memories, questions, plans, or quiet worries. Yet if one listens closely, there are pauses, brief silences, subtle gaps where thought dissolves and presence shines through. Inhale, awareness rises, noticing the thought that drifts into being. Exhale, awareness lingers in the quiet that follows. With each cycle, the listener begins to sense the hollow inside not as absence, but as space. Vast, open, luminous. The imagery expands. The listener imagines lying on soft grass at night, gazing up at a sky filled with drifting clouds. At times the clouds are heavy, covering the stars. At other times they part, revealing clear space, infinite and still. The hollow feeling inside is like this sky, not empty in a painful way, but open, vast enough to hold everything without strain. A Buddhist teaching arises. Emptiness is not nothingness, but potential. In the gaps between thoughts, awareness rests pure and unshaken, like the clear sky revealed when clouds drift away. To touch this silence is to touch the essence of being. The reflection deepens. Some believe the mind must always be full of plans, achievements, and noise to prove its worth. Others know that fullness is found in openness, in the silence that allows life to move freely. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that the hollow within is not a flaw, but the very space where peace and wisdom appear. The body responds tenderly. The forehead smooths. The eyes grow soft. The chest expands easily. Muscles release as though surrendering into vastness. The hollow space feels lighter, like an open sky within the heart, unburdened, infinite. The narrator whispers, "Remember the space between thoughts. It is not emptiness, but freedom. Just breathe. It's safe to open, drifting deeper now." The clouds drift slowly, revealing more stars. The night sky stretches wider, filled with both movement and stillness. The listener rests within it, realizing that the hollow inside has always been spacious enough to hold the entire universe. And so, in the space between thoughts, the listener drifts deeper, not into emptiness, but into vast, radiant presence. The breath deepens into warmth, and the listener is invited now to meet the hollow space within, not with fear, not with judgment, but with tenderness. This is the practice of self-compassion, the gentle art of speaking kindly to the parts of oneself that ache. Inhale, the chest opens, welcoming softness into the heart. Exhale, a quiet murmur of care flows outward, soothing the inner emptiness. Each cycle becomes a lullaby, reminding the listener that they are worthy of kindness, even when they feel hollow. The imagery expands. The listener imagines holding a small bird in their hands, fragile and trembling. At first, the instinct may be to squeeze tightly to keep it safe, but instead, the hands relax, cupping it softly, allowing space for breath and calm. The bird slowly settles, its trembling easing in the safety of gentleness. The hollow within is like this bird, tender, easily frightened, yet soothed when held with care. A Buddhist teaching arises. Compassion begins within. Just as one cannot pour water from an empty cup, one cannot offer lasting kindness to others without first learning to hold their own heart tenderly. To breathe compassion inward is not selfish, but necessary. It transforms emptiness into a garden where healing can bloom. A reflection surfaces. Some believe strength means never showing weakness, never admitting ache. Others understand that true strength comes from gentleness, from the courage to meet one's pain with love. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that the hollow inside softens when treated with the same kindness they would offer a dear friend. The body responds quietly. The shoulders drop. The chest warms. The breath feels fuller. A glow spreads through the belly, softening the edges of the hollow. Muscles unclench as though the body itself has heard the words. It's okay. You are sound. You are enough. The narrator whispers, remember this softness of self-compassion. It heals from within. Just breathe. It's safe to be gentle, drifting deeper now. The bird rests calmly in the hands, no longer trembling. The listener feels the same calm spreading inward, a sense of being held, not by another, but by their own loving awareness. The hollow inside no longer feels empty. It feels nurtured, cradled, alive. And so, with the practice of self-compassion, the listener drifts deeper, discovering that kindness toward the self is the first step toward true wholeness. The breath slows into long, flowing cycles, and the listener is guided toward one of the most subtle causes of emptiness, the thirst of becoming. It is the restless whisper, I will feel complete when I am different, when I have changed, when I become more than I am now. The hollow space deepens each time the heart chases a future self, leaving the present behind. Inhale. The body receives the present moment, exactly as it is. Exhale. The longing for someday softens, released into the night. Each cycle reminds the listener that peace is not hidden in tomorrow, but available in this breath, now. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking up a mountain path, always looking toward the distant peak. The climb feels endless, and each time the summit nears, a new, higher peak appears beyond it. The body grows weary, the heart heavy, yet the horizon keeps retreating. At last, the listener pauses, sitting upon a smooth stone. They look around and see the beauty already present, the wild flowers blooming by the trail, the wind moving softly through the trees, the vast sky stretching above. The journey itself has always been complete, even without the summit. A Buddhist teaching arises. Craving for becoming is as binding as craving for possessions. It creates a cycle of restlessness, where fulfillment is always ahead, never here. To release this thirst is to realize that the self, in this moment, is already enough. A reflection arises. Some say transformation happens by striving relentlessly for a future self. Others know transformation arises gently by resting fully in the present. Tonight, the listener leans into this second truth. They discover that the hollow space inside softens when they stop chasing and simply breathe. The body responds with relief. The shoulders fall heavily. The chest feels open. The breath flows more naturally. The hollow inside no longer feels like a failure to become, but a spaciousness already filled with life, already whole. The narrator whispers, remember this thirst of becoming. You do not need to chase, just breathe. It's safe to arrive, drifting deeper now. The mountain fades into twilight, the horizon no longer a demand, but a backdrop of beauty. The listener rests on the stone, noticing the present moment as the true destination. The ache of emptiness begins to dissolve, replaced by quiet acceptance. And so, by releasing the thirst of becoming, the listener drifts deeper, discovering wholeness not in what they will be, but in what they already are. The breath glows softly now, steady and calm, and the listener is invited to picture a gentle lantern flickering deep within. This is the lantern within, a steady light that has always been present, even when the hollow space feels endless. It may be covered, dimmed, or forgotten, but it never goes out. Inhale. The flame brightens, warm and steady. Exhale. The glow spreads through the chest, softening the emptiness within. Each breath becomes fuel for the lantern, a reminder that there is already light in the heart, waiting to be seen. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking through a dark forest. At first, the path feels uncertain, shadows stretching long across the ground. Then they notice the lantern in their hands, glowing with quiet strength. It does not banish the entire forest's darkness, but it illuminates enough for each gentle step. The hollowness within is like this forest, vast, sometimes frightening, yet the lantern shows that light already belongs to the journey. A Buddhist teaching arises. The light of awareness is innate. It does not need to be created, only uncovered. Just as clouds cannot destroy the sun, suffering cannot extinguish the lantern of presence within. The listener realizes that emptiness feels overwhelming when the light is forgotten, but remembered, it transforms the hollow into a sanctuary. A reflection deepens. Some say peace must be sought outside. In others, in places, in objects. Others know peace is discovered by turning inward, finding the lantern that has always glowed. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the light within is not small or fragile. It is enough, always. The body responds with warmth. The chest glows softly, shoulders release downward. The belly feels safe and settled. The hollow space no longer feels dark and barren, but softly illuminated, alive with golden calm. The narrator whispers, "Remember this lantern within. It has never left you. Just breathe. It's safe to shine." Drifting deeper now. The forest grows quieter, less threatening. The lantern's glow lights the path, revealing gentle beauty. Moss on the stones, the curve of branches, the shimmer of dew. The listener rests in its glow, realizing they carry the very light they have been searching for. And so, with the lantern within, the listener drifts deeper, no longer lost in emptiness, but guided by their own steady flame. The breath slows, and now the listener is invited to meet the weight of regret, those lingering echoes of the past that feed emptiness in the present. Regret is like a shadow, that follows quietly, whispering, "If only I should have. I wish it had been different." Each whisper deepens the hollow, making the heart feel heavy and incomplete. Inhale. The body receives this shadow with gentleness, not resistance. Exhale. The weight begins to loosen, like stones being set down one by one. With each cycle, the listener is reminded that the past cannot be undone, but it can be forgiven. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking along a quiet riverbank, carrying a satchel filled with stones. Each stone represents a regret. Words unsaid, choices made, opportunities missed. The satchel grows heavy, the steps slower. At the river's edge, the listener pauses. They reach into the satchel, take one stone, and gently place it into the flowing water. The river accepts it without judgment, carrying it away into the horizon. One by one, the stones are released until the satchel is empty and the body feels light again. A Buddhist teaching arises. Clinging to the past is like carrying fire in bare hands. It burns not because the past remains, but because we refuse to let it go. Forgiveness, for oneself and for others, is the cooling water that eases the burn. To forgive is not to erase, but to release the grip that keeps suffering alive. A reflection arises. Some believe regret must be held forever, as proof of learning. Others know that lessons remain even after the burden is released. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that letting go does not dishonor the past. It honors the present, allowing the hollow space inside to be filled with peace. The body responds tenderly. The chest feels lighter. The shoulders soften. The breath flows with greater ease. Muscles that once clenched begin to release, as though the stones truly have been set down. The hollow ache no longer feels weighted. It feels open, capable of holding forgiveness. The narrator whispers, "Remember this weight of regret. You do not need to carry it. Just breathe. It's safe to release, drifting deeper now." The river flows steadily, carrying the stones away. The listener stands on its bank, unburdened, the satchel empty. The hollow space within feels less like a wound and more like clear water, reflecting moonlight softly across its surface. And so, with regret released into the river, the listener drifts deeper, discovering that emptiness can become lightness when forgiveness is allowed to flow. The breath moves like a soft tide, and the listener is invited now to rest in the truth of impermanence. The hollow ache inside often grows heavy when we forget that all things change, when we cling to what is past or fear what is yet to come. But impermanence is not a curse. It is the gentle rhythm of life itself. Inhale. The listener feels the cool air enter, fresh and new. Exhale. The body releases, letting go of what no longer remains. Each cycle is proof. No breath stays forever, yet another always follows. The hollowness is softened by this truth. Even emptiness shifts. Even longing passes. Even sorrow fades. The imagery expands. The listener imagines lying beside a wide lake at twilight. Ripples spread across the water as wind drifts through. The surface changes constantly, shimmering, shifting, never the same twice. Yet beneath, the lake remains whole. The hollow within is like this water, always moving, always transforming, yet never broken. A Buddhist teaching arises. Everything conditioned is impermanent. To cling to what is fleeting brings suffering, but to release into change brings freedom. Just as night yields to dawn, sorrow yields to joy, and emptiness, too, can yield to peace. A reflection surfaces. Some say stability is found in holding tightly to what we love, resisting change at all costs. Others know stability is found in trusting the flow, bowing gently to the truth that nothing remains the same. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that the hollow inside is not fixed. It is a moment, and it too will move on. The body responds softly. The chest loosens. The breath deepens. The muscles release their grip. Shoulders feel lighter. The jaw unclenches, and the hollow begins to feel less solid, more like a passing ripple across water. The narrator whispers, "Remember this drifting impermanence. Nothing stays forever, not even emptiness. Just breathe. It's safe to let it pass, drifting deeper now." The lake reflects the stars as night deepens. Ripples move across its surface, shimmering and vanishing again. The listener rests at its edge, watching the gentle rhythm, realizing that their hollow too is part of this flow. And so, drifting with impermanence, the listener drifts deeper, finding comfort not in what endures, but in the quiet trust that all things change. The breath deepens into a gentle rhythm, and the listener is guided now into a vision of the garden unseen. Within the hollow ache lies not only absence, but also hidden seeds, potentials waiting quietly in the dark, unseen yet alive. The emptiness feels barren only because the growth within has not yet surfaced. Inhale. The listener imagines drawing nourishment into the soil of the heart. Exhale. They release worry, allowing the seeds within to rest in patience. Each breath becomes like rain upon the earth, softening the hollow, preparing it for bloom. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking through a field at dusk, where the soil looks bare, quiet, even desolate. Yet beneath the surface, countless seeds lie waiting. Some will sprout tomorrow, others in weeks, some not until a new season arrives. The field may appear empty, but it is already full of life unseen. A Buddhist teaching arises. Potential is always present, even when invisible. Just as a lotus blooms from the mud, so too can wisdom and peace arise from the hollow spaces of the heart. The listener learns that emptiness can be a womb, not a wound. A reflection surfaces. Some say worth is measured by what is visible. Achievements, progress, clear results. Others know worth is also in the unseen, in the quiet growth happening beneath the surface. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They recognize that their hollow ache may be the soil from which something beautiful will one day emerge. The body responds gently. The chest feels more spacious. The belly softens. The breath flows with quiet steadiness. The hollow inside no longer feels desolate. It feels fertile, like earth rich with hidden seeds. The narrator whispers, "Remember this garden unseen. It already lives within you. Just breathe. It's safe to wait. Drifting deeper now." The field darkens as the night settles, yet the listener rests with faith in what lies beneath. Stars shimmer above like tiny blossoms of light, reflecting the unseen life stirring below. The emptiness is no longer frightening. It is full of quiet promise. And so, within the unseen garden of the heart, the listener drifts deeper, trusting that even the hollow holds seeds of future bloom. The breath steadies, flowing like a calm stream, and the listener is invited now to take the role of the gentle watcher. Instead of being swept into the hollow ache, they rest as the one who observes. Spacious, still, untouched. Inhale. Awareness expands, noticing the sensations of emptiness. Exhale. Awareness releases, allowing them to pass like clouds across a vast sky. Each cycle is a reminder that the listener is not the hollow, not the ache, but the witness holding it all. The imagery expands. The listener imagines sitting upon a quiet hillside, overlooking a wide valley. In the valley, figures move. Thoughts, memories, desires, regrets. Some rush like travelers, others linger like shadows. Yet from the hillside, all are seen clearly. None clung to, none rejected. The watcher simply notices, calm and steady, while the valley continues its flow. A Buddhist teaching arises. The self is not the passing stream of thought or emotion, but the awareness that sees them. To identify with the hollow is to suffer. To rest as awareness is to find peace, even amid emptiness. A reflection surfaces. Some say healing comes from controlling or silencing the mind. Others know healing comes from observing gently, without struggle. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They realize that they do not need to fix the hollow. They need only to watch, and in watching, the ache softens on its own. The body responds in kind. The shoulders release downward. The chest expands with ease. The breath flows unhurried. The hollow no longer feels consuming. It feels like a passing guest in a vast house of awareness. The narrator whispers, "Remember this gentle watcher. You are the hillside, not the valley. Just breathe. It's safe to observe. Drifting deeper now." The valley below darkens under the stars, yet the hillside remains calm and still. The listener rests there, no longer pulled by the figures moving below, but held by the vastness of their own awareness. And so, as the gentle watcher, the listener drifts deeper, discovering freedom not in changing what is seen, but in resting as the one who sees. The breath flows like a gentle breeze, and the listener is invited to soften into the ache that arises from the myth of perfection. The hollow inside often deepens when the heart whispers, "I must be flawless. I must never falter. I must always shine." Yet perfection, like the horizon, retreats each time it is reached. Inhale. The body welcomes what is. Exhale. The weight of should and must drifts away. With each cycle, the listener learns to release the sharp edges of expectation and rest in the gentleness of imperfection. The imagery expands. The listener imagines standing in a garden at dawn. Some flowers are in full bloom, bright and radiant. Others are just beginning to open, petals still curled. A few are wilted, their fragrance fading. Yet the garden as a whole is beautiful, not because it is flawless, but because it is real, alive, whole in its variety. The heart is like this garden. It does not need to be perfect to be worthy. A Buddhist teaching arises. Clinging to ideals creates suffering. The Buddha reminded that all conditioned things are imperfect, impermanent, incomplete. To see this truth is to breathe freely, no longer trapped in the cage of perfection. A reflection surfaces. Some say emptiness comes from not being enough. Others know it comes from believing one must be more than human. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache softens when they allow themselves to be simply as they are. The body responds gently. The shoulders relax. The chest feels lighter. The breath deepens. The hollow space no longer feels like proof of failure. It feels like open ground where authenticity can take root. The narrator whispers, "Remember this myth of perfection. You do not need to be flawless. Just breathe. It's safe to be human, drifting deeper now." The garden brightens as the sun rises higher. Bees move between blossoms. Wind stirs the leaves. Petals fall and new ones open. Nothing is perfect, and yet everything belongs. The listener rests in this truth, feeling the hollow soften into acceptance. And so, by releasing the myth of perfection, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the peace of being whole. Even with imperfections, the breath deepens, moving like waves upon a quiet shore, and the listener is guided now into the echo of desire's end. When the hollow ache grows strong, it often whispers, "I will be whole when I finally get what I want." Yet again and again, the moment of getting arrives, and still the emptiness remains. Inhale. The body notices this echo with gentle curiosity. Exhale. The longing softens, released like mist in morning light. With each cycle, the listener learns that the ache is not proof of failure, but a teacher pointing toward freedom. The imagery expands. The listener imagines standing in an ancient temple courtyard at dusk. The air is fragrant with incense, Bells ring softly in the distance. At the center stands a great clay jar, filled again and again by travelers pouring water inside. Yet no matter how much is given, the jar leaks steadily, never staying full. The listener sees the truth. Fulfillment cannot last when it is sought only outside. A Buddhist teaching arises. Desire is endless because it grasps at what cannot endure. True peace comes not from satisfying every thirst, but from seeing through the illusion that thirst itself must define us. When craving ceases, emptiness transforms into spacious calm. A reflection surfaces. Some say the solution to emptiness is to keep pursuing, keep achieving, keep filling. Others know the solution is to step away, to stop pouring into a jar that cannot hold. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that peace begins not with more, but with less. Less clinging, less striving, more stillness. The body responds softly. The chest expands. The shoulders release. The belly feels grounded. The hollow ache feels quieter now, not demanding to be filled, but resting in openness. The narrator whispers, "Remember this echo of desire's end. You do not need to keep pouring, just breathe. It's safe to rest, drifting deeper now." The temple courtyard glows under lantern light, the clay jar silent at its center. The listener turns away gently, walking into the night air, free of the need to keep filling what cannot stay full. The hollow inside feels lighter, calmer, more like a space of peace than a wound of lack. And so, by resting in the echo of desire's end, the listener drifts deeper, discovering that emptiness can be freedom when craving fades into stillness. The breath flows smoothly, and the listener is guided into the tender practice of loving kindness, or metta. The hollow ache inside often feels sharp because the heart forgets its own capacity to love, to radiate warmth outward and inward. Tonight, the listener learns that love is not only received, it can also be generated, shared, and expanded without limit. Inhale. The chest fills with a soft warmth, as though light is gathering in the heart. Exhale. The warmth spreads outward, reaching into the hollow within. With each cycle, the listener learns to breathe love into themselves, and then beyond themselves. The imagery expands. The listener imagines a small lotus blooming in the center of their chest. With each inhale, its petals unfold, glowing faintly. With each exhale, the glow radiates outward, first filling the hollow inside, then spreading gently to loved ones, then further, even to strangers, even to those with whom they've struggled. The lotus keeps blooming, its light endless, its compassion boundless. A Buddhist teaching arises. The practice of loving kindness dissolves separation. To wish others well, may you be safe, may you be at ease, may you be free from suffering, is also to heal the self. For love given is never lost, It nourishes both giver and receiver. A reflection surfaces. Some believe emptiness is proof of a lack of love from the world. Others know emptiness is softened when love is generated within, flowing outward like an endless spring. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that they already hold the capacity to transform hollow ache into radiant care. The body responds with warmth. The chest glows, shoulders ease. The breath feels expansive. The hollow space no longer feels cold. It feels filled with golden light, as though the lotus within continues to bloom softly, endlessly. The narrator whispers, "Remember this loving kindness. It flows without end. Just breathe. It's safe to send love, drifting deeper now." The lotus glows brighter, illuminating not only the body but the space around it. The listener rests in this light, realizing they are not only capable of receiving love, they are a source of it. The emptiness inside no longer feels barren. It feels like a vessel overflowing with compassion. And so, with the practice of loving kindness, the listener drifts deeper, embraced by the warmth of their own boundless heart. The breath slows into a deeper rhythm, and the listener is invited to meet the quiet ache of attachment, the clinging to people, places, and moments that cannot stay. The hollow inside often aches most when something once cherished is gone, leaving behind an empty echo. Inhale. The body receives this truth gently, acknowledging the longing without resistance. Exhale. The grip loosens, like a hand slowly opening, releasing what it cannot hold forever. Each breath becomes a soft practice of letting go. The imagery expands. The listener imagines holding a handful of sand at the edge of the sea. At first, the grip is tight, desperate to keep each grain. But the harder they squeeze, the faster the sand slips away. When the hand relaxes, some grains still fall. Yet what remains rests gently, peacefully. The hollow within is like this, softened not by clinging, but by release. A Buddhist teaching arises. Attachment is the root of suffering. To cling is to resist impermanence, to deny the natural flow of life. Freedom is not found in refusing to love, but in loving without grasping, allowing each person, each moment, each breath to come and go, like waves upon the shore. A reflection surfaces. Some believe emptiness is proof that something precious was lost. Others know emptiness is the space left open when clinging is released, a space where peace and love can return in new forms. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They learn that by releasing, they do not lose, they transform. The body responds with ease, the chest softens, the shoulders fall, the breath flows more freely. The hollow no longer feels like a wound of absence. It feels like open palms, ready to hold gently, without fear. The narrator whispers, "Remember this quiet ache of attachment. You can love without clinging. Just breathe. It's safe to release, drifting deeper now. The sea tide moves gently, waves washing over the shore, carrying some sand away while leaving the beach renewed. The listener stands with open hands, no longer burdened by the need to hold tightly. The hollow inside feels spacious now, touched by the rhythm of ebb and flow. And so, by softening attachment, the listener drifts deeper, learning that letting go is not emptiness, but freedom in its gentlest form. The breath deepens, flowing in long, soothing waves, and the listener is guided toward the truth of interbeing, the quiet realization that nothing exists alone. The hollow ache inside often feels sharpest when the self is imagined as separate, cut off, isolated. Yet the teaching of interbeing reveals that all things touch, all things connect, all things breathe together. Inhale. The chest opens, drawing in the life of trees, oceans, and sky. Exhale. The body releases, returning life to the same vast web. With each cycle, the listener feels less like a solitary being and more like part of an endless flow. The imagery expands. The listener imagines a single wave rising upon the ocean. At first, it feels distinct, separate, fragile, but as it falls back into the sea, it remembers. It was never a part, only a temporary form of something vast. The hollow inside is like the waves forgetting. The breath is the reminder. You are not separate from life. You are life. A Buddhist teaching arises. The self is empty of a separate existence, but full of everything that sustains it. Air, water, soil, sunlight, countless beings. To realize interbeing is to dissolve the ache of isolation and to remember belonging in its deepest sense. A reflection surfaces. Some believe emptiness means being alone in the universe. Others know emptiness means being open, inseparable from the whole. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache is not isolation. It is simply the longing to remember the ocean they have always belonged to. The body responds with ease. The chest feels wide. The shoulders soften. The breath grows expansive, like tides moving in and out. The hollow no longer feels like a void. It feels like a doorway into vast belonging. The narrator whispers, "Remember this truth of interbeing. You are not alone. Just breathe." It's safe to belong, drifting deeper now. The ocean spreads endlessly, waves rising and falling in rhythm with the breath. The listener rests in this flow, realizing they are both the wave and the water, both individual and infinite. The hollow inside softens into unity, a quiet peace born of connection. And so, with the teaching of interbeing, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the vast embrace of all that is. The breath flows steadily, and the listener is invited to rest in the teaching of non-self. The hollow ache often deepens when the self clings tightly to its stories. I am this role, this name, this history, this weight. Yet Buddhism reminds us that the self is not a fixed thing. It is a flow, a collection of ever-changing conditions. Inhale, the body softens, loosening the grip of identity. Exhale, the heart releases, as though setting down a mask it no longer needs. With each cycle, the listener remembers. They are not bound to who they think they are. The imagery expands. The listener imagines a river winding through valleys, carrying leaves, branches, reflections of sky. No single thing defines the river, yet it is whole, alive, complete. The hollow within is like forgetting this truth, mistaking the leaf or branch for the entire stream. In awareness, the listener rediscovers themselves as the flow, not the fragments. A Buddhist teaching arises. Clinging to a solid self creates suffering, for when change arrives, and it always does, the illusion breaks. To see that the self is fluid is to find freedom, no longer caught in the ache of trying to hold what cannot be held. A reflection surfaces. Some believe identity must be defended, built, and perfected endlessly. Others know identity is simply a story told for a time, dissolving and reforming like clouds. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that the hollow space within is not a sign of being incomplete. It is the space through which the river of life flows. The body responds with spaciousness. The shoulders ease back. The chest opens wide. The breath feels flowing, natural, unbound. The hollow no longer feels like a wound. It feels like a current, alive and moving, impossible to pin down. The narrator whispers, "Remember this teaching of non-self. You are not fixed. Just breathe. It's safe to flow, drifting deeper now." The river winds onward under moonlight, carrying reflections that shimmer and vanish. The listener rests on its bank, at peace with the truth that they are not a single reflection, not even the river itself, but the flow of awareness moving endlessly. And so, with the teaching of non-self, the listener drifts deeper, freed from the ache of clinging to an identity that was never solid to begin with. The breath slows into long, soothing waves, and the listener is guided into the gentle practice of equanimity, the calm acceptance of all that arises. The hollow ache often feels sharper because the mind resists. This should not be here. I must make it go away. Yet resistance tightens the ache, while equanimity softens it into peace. Inhale. The body welcomes what is, without judgment. Exhale. The heart releases grasping and aversion. With each cycle, the listener learns to sit with both fullness and emptiness, joy and sorrow, as passing guests in the house of awareness. The imagery expands. The listener imagines sitting on a wide mountain ledge, gazing over valleys and skies. Sunlight warms the peaks. Clouds gather in shadows. Winds pass in their own rhythm. The mountain does not resist the weather. It allows each moment to come and go. The hollow within is like this mountain, steady when it allows experience to pass freely. A Buddhist teaching arises. Equanimity is the balance of the heart. It does not mean indifference, but the deep calm that arises when we no longer cling or push away. When the listener rests in equanimity, the hollow ache loses its sharpness and becomes simply part of the flow. A reflection surfaces. Some believe peace comes only when suffering is erased. Others know peace comes when suffering and joy are both held gently, without preference, without fear. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They realize the hollow need not disappear to feel whole. It only needs to be accepted. The body responds with deep ease. The shoulders sink, the chest feels steady, the belly is calm. The breath slows into a rhythm that feels timeless, unshaken. The hollow inside no longer feels like a problem. It feels like weather moving across a vast sky. The narrator whispers, "Remember this gift of equanimity. You are steady as the mountain. Just breathe. It's safe to allow, drifting deeper now." The mountain remains still beneath moonlight, valleys stretching wide, clouds passing softly. The listener rests here, unmoved by storms or sunshine, finding peace not by changing the world within, but by allowing it to be. And so, with the practice of equanimity, the listener drifts deeper, discovering the unshaken ground of the heart. The breath deepens like a quiet tide, and the listener is guided into the tender awareness of gratitude. The hollow inside often aches because attention lingers on what is missing, on what has not been gained, on what feels absent. Gratitude shifts the gaze, reminding the heart of what is already here. Inhale. The body welcomes a small remembrance of goodness, a kindness received, a breath of fresh air, a moment of beauty. Exhale. The heart expands, releasing the habit of focusing only on lack. With each cycle, the listener feels the hollow soften, filled not with more possessions, but with appreciation. The imagery expands. The listener imagines walking through a simple meadow at dawn. At first, the field looks plain, grass bending in the breeze, nothing remarkable. But as the sun rises, details emerge. Drops of dew glistening like jewels. Wildflowers swaying gently, birdsong echoing sweetly. The meadow was never empty. It was only unseen. Gratitude is the rising sun that reveals hidden fullness. A Buddhist teaching arises. When gratitude blooms, the restless craving for more is quieted. Contentment arises, and the heart remembers sufficiency. The listener realizes that even within emptiness, there are small treasures waiting to be noticed. A reflection surfaces. Some believe wholeness is found by adding endlessly. Others know wholeness is discovered by cherishing what is already present. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that the hollow ache transforms when it is illuminated by gratitude. The body responds with warmth. The chest feels open. The breath flows gently. The shoulders soften. The hollow within is no longer barren. It feels like soil made rich by appreciation, fertile for peace to grow. The narrator whispers, Remember this practice of gratitude. It reveals what was always here. Just breathe. It's safe to cherish, drifting deeper now. The meadow brightens fully, light spilling across every blade of grass. The listener rests within it, noticing beauty in the smallest details, the shimmer of dew, the hum of bees, the steady pulse of their own breath. The hollow feels filled, not by addition, but by awareness of what has always been. And so, with gratitude as their guide, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the fullness of the present moment. The breath moves slowly, as though time itself has softened, and the listener is invited to meet the silence within. Beyond the ache, beyond thought, beyond striving, there is a quiet stillness, not empty in despair, but spacious in peace. The hollow inside, when touched gently, becomes this silence, vast and comforting. Inhale. The body draws in calm, a coolness that settles deeply. Exhale. The mind releases its grasp, melting into quiet. Each cycle carries the listener closer to the center of stillness, where nothing is missing, nothing is broken. The imagery expands. The listener imagines entering a great temple at night. The doors close softly. The air is cool, scented faintly with incense. Within, the vast hall is silent. No voices, no footsteps, only the hush of space itself. At first, the silence feels intimidating, as though it reveals too much. But slowly, it begins to cradle the heart, offering safety, rest, and calm. The hollow inside is like this temple, a place of quiet presence, not absence. A Buddhist teaching arises. Silence is not emptiness, but fullness without noise. When one rests in silence, awareness shines unobstructed, like a moon reflected on still water. To discover peace in silence is to see that the hollow is not a wound, but a doorway. A reflection surfaces. Some believe silence is loneliness, a void to be avoided. Others know silence is sanctuary, where the deepest truths are heard. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They discover that stillness is not frightening, but healing. The body responds with surrender. Shoulders fall heavy. The chest expands slowly. The breath is unhurried. The hollow within no longer feels restless. It feels like a vast, quiet room, where the soul can finally rest. The narrator whispers, "Remember this silence within. It is not absence, but presence. Just breathe. It's safe to rest here, drifting deeper now." The temple glows faintly with candlelight, shadows long and soft. The listener rests upon the cool floor, listening not to sound, but to the stillness itself. The hollow space inside merges with the silence, revealing itself as peace. And so, within the silence of the heart, the listener drifts deeper, resting in the calm that has always been here, waiting beneath the noise. The breath flows in long, unbroken waves, carrying the listener toward the final reflection, the wholeness of being. All along, the hollow ache has whispered of lack, of incompleteness. Yet as the journey deepens, the listener sees the truth. What they sought was never missing. Beneath the ache, beneath the searching, they have always been whole. Inhale. The body welcomes this realization gently, like light seeping through curtains at dawn. Exhale. The heart expands, releasing the last remnants of doubt. With each cycle, the hollow space is revealed not as absence, but as openness, vast enough to hold everything. The imagery expands. The listener imagines sitting at the edge of a mountain lake at sunrise. The water is perfectly still, reflecting the sky as it blushes with gold and rose. In its surface, everything is mirrored. Peaks, clouds, light, even the listener's own quiet form. Nothing is missing from the reflection. It is complete. The hollow within is like this lake, not broken, but vast, still, capable of holding the entire sky. A Buddhist teaching arises. The true nature of the mind is luminous, clear, unbroken. Suffering comes from forgetting this, from believing the hollow defines us. Awakening is the remembering that beneath change, beneath longing, beneath all illusions, there is already completeness. A reflection surfaces. Some say wholeness must be earned, built, or proven. Others know wholeness is simply recognized, revealed when illusions of emptiness dissolve. Tonight, the listener leans into the second truth. They see that their being, as it is now, is enough, is whole, is radiant. The body responds with profound ease. The chest feels wide as sky, the breath deep and effortless, the muscles soft. The hollow within no longer aches. It has opened fully into spacious, luminous calm. The narrator whispers, "Remember this wholeness of being. You were never broken. Just breathe. It's safe to rest, drifting deeper now." The lake reflects the rising sun, light spilling gently across the water, across the mountains, across the listener's heart. There is no hollow anymore, only openness, only peace. The listener rests here, whole and safe, carried by breath, embraced by presence. And so, with the recognition of wholeness, the listener drifts into the deepest calm, into the fullness of being. The breath slows into the softest rhythm now, each inhale and quiet, each exhale stretching out like a gentle sigh. The journey has carried the listener through shadows and light, through emptiness and fullness, through longing and release. And here, at the end, there is no need to reach for anything more. The path has already brought them to stillness. The imagery settles. The listener imagines lying beneath a vast night sky, stars scattered like soft lanterns across the darkness. A cool breeze brushes the skin. The earth beneath feels steady, and the body is heavy with calm. Every sound is distant, softened, as though the world itself is whispering them to rest. The hollow inside, once sharp and restless, has become spacious, a sky within, endless and serene. The narrator's voice is soft, slower now, leaving long pauses between words. You have walked far tonight. You have listened to the ache, breathed into the silence, and discovered the wholeness that was always yours. There is nothing left to chase. There is nothing left to fix. All that remains is rest. The body responds in surrender. The shoulders melt into the surface below. The chest rises and falls with ease. The limbs feel heavy yet safe, as though sinking into the arms of the earth. Every breath carries the listener deeper, further from waking thought, closer to the gentle tide of sleep. The reflection deepens. Some say peace is something to be found in distant places after long searching. Others know peace is what appears when the searching ends. Tonight, the listener leans fully into this second truth. They understand now that the hollow was never a punishment, but a doorway, a passage that led them here, into stillness, into safety, into rest. The narrator whispers, almost like a lullaby. It's safe to let go. It's safe to drift. The journey rests now, and so can you. The silence widens. The stars shimmer faintly above. The listener's breath is slow, even, steady, the rhythm of a body ready for sleep. The hollow inside has dissolved into spacious calm, a quiet field where dreams may bloom. Nothing is missing, nothing is broken, nothing is incomplete. The words grow slower, softer, fading like echoes. Just breathe. You are whole, drifting deeper now. The journey is complete. The night is yours. Sweet dreams. And as the final breath carries them into rest, the meditation closes with peace, with safety, with wholeness. End of script. Sweet dreams.